If you feel stuck right now, I want to say something that might irritate you at first, and then if you let it sit for a minute, might actually free you. You're not stuck because you lack talent. You're not stuck because you're behind. You're not stuck because you missed your chance. In my experience, both watching other people and being painfully honest with myself, most people who feel stuck are actually very capable. They're smart, they're thoughtful, they've done hard things before. They've even had times where things worked. What they're trapped in isn't inability, it's patterns that feel productive, responsible, and I guess mature, but never actually create change. Those patterns are dangerous because they let you stay busy while draining your belief that anything is going to move forward. So in this video, I want to walk through 5 reasons that you might still feel stuck even though you're capable and trying. And none of them have anything to do with talent. Let's get it. Reason number 1, you're avoiding a decision, not a lack of skill. Most people don't realize this, but being stuck is rarely about lack of movement. It's about lack of decision. You're not frozen. You're hovering. You're researching instead of choosing. Trust me, I've spent thousands of hours researching something. You just have to pull the trigger. Planning instead of committing. Thinking instead of risking being wrong. And the dangerous part is that this state feels responsible. Feels like you're doing the right thing. Feels like you're being careful. Like you're not rushing into something stupid. Like you're waiting for clarity, confidence, or the right time. I've lived this a lot. There were moments in my life where I looked productive on the outside, learning, preparing, gathering information, but internally I was just delaying a decision that I was afraid to make because decisions remove excuses. Once you decide, you can't hide. You can't hide behind, well, I'm still figuring it out. Here's the truth I learned the hard way. Clarity does not come before commitment. It comes after. When I stepped into leadership roles, earlier than I felt that I was ready for, I didn't feel clear. I felt exposed, but the clarity came after I committed, not before. You don't see the road clearly while you're standing still. You see it once you start walking. As long as you avoid choosing a direction, you protect yourself from being wrong. But you also guarantee that nothing's going to change. And over time, avoiding decisions becomes a habit and a comfortable one. Reason number 2, you're protecting the fantasy of your own potential. This one's uncomfortable, but it's important. As long as you haven't fully committed to something, you can still believe you're capable of anything. You can believe that you really tried, that you'd succeed, that if timing were right, you'd thrive, that if circumstances were a little different, you'd be unstoppable. I've felt this myself. There were times where I hadn't fully gone all in on my own creative work, and part of me liked that. Because as long as I hadn't fully committed, I could still tell myself, I could do this if I wanted to. But the moment you choose a direction and give it your full effort, that fantasy is gone. It just disappears. Because now your potential has to turn into results. You have to actually produce. Results are specific. They're measurable. They don't care how capable you think you are. Staying stuck protects the illusion of who you might be. But that illusion doesn't stay comforting forever. Eventually, it'll turn into frustration, then resentment, and then regret, the one thing we say we all don't want to live with. And what makes that regret worse is knowing deep down you didn't fail, you just never committed. You never tried. Never found out what you were capable of. Reason number 3, you're confusing movement with progress. You're busy. We're all busy. You're active. You're doing things. But here's the hard question I had to ask myself at one point and on more than one occasion. Am I actually moving forward or just staying occupied? Most people who feel stuck, they aren't doing nothing. They're just doing everything. They're constantly adjusting tactics instead of committing to a direction or a plan. New routines, new tools, new goals, new strategies. I've done this too. We all have. Changing systems, tweaking workflows, reorganizing instead of executing. It all feels productive, but it doesn't demand commitment. What looks like flexibility is often avoidance. Real progress requires narrowing your focus. Narrowing your focus means saying no to other options, means letting go of paths that you could have taken. That's scary. That can be very scary because staying scattered lets you avoid responsibility for outcomes. Progress demands sacrifice. It demands staying with one thing long enough for resistance to show up and not leaving the moment it does. And most people quit internally right when the work stops being exciting and starts becoming repetitive. That's not a talent problem. That's a patience problem. Reason number 4, you're waiting for certainty that's never going to come. You want guarantees. We all do. You want to know it will work out before you give it your full effort. You want proof before you risk embarrassment, wasted time, or disappointment. I understand this deeply. Look at the YouTube journey. I never thought about showing my face or being creative or anything like that. I have no idea if it's going to be successful. I'm still very early on, but you have to drop that feeling of, I might be embarrassed, or what are people going to say? What are family and friends? Who cares? That doesn't matter. There were plenty of times in my life where I waited for external confirmation, a sign or permission or reassurance before I fully stepped into something. But here's what experience teaches you. Life doesn't offer guarantees. It offers trade-offs. Waiting for certainty feels safe, but it quietly costs you for years. Every year you wait for clarity is a year you could have been building momentum. Every year you wait to feel confident is a year you could have been gaining strength through experience. Certainty doesn't precede action, it follows it. Confidence is built through repetitions, not contemplation. And the longer you wait, the heavier that decision's going to feel. Because now you're not just afraid of being wrong, you're afraid of, confirming how long you waited. Reason number 5. You've made comfort your primary goal. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't look like quitting. It looks like being reasonable, like managing stress, like avoiding unnecessary pressure. I've seen this creep into my own life during busy times, during slow times, all the time. You tell yourself you'll push later, that now isn't the right time, that you're protecting your energy. But comfort slowly erodes urgency, and urgency is what creates change. When comfort becomes the priority, everything else becomes negotiable. Your standards soften. Your timelines stretch. Your excuses start sounding smart. You don't quit. You just drift. And drifting feels harmless until you look up and realize years have passed without meaningful movement. Comfort doesn't ruin your life dramatically. It does it quietly and slowly. So, if you feel stuck, stop asking, what am I missing? Stop assuming the problem is more information, better tools, or more talent. Start asking a harder question. What decisions am I avoiding because I don't want to be wrong? That's the door. And walking through it doesn't require brilliance. It doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require confidence. It does require courage. Courage to choose, courage to commit, courage to let action teach you what thinking never can and never will. You don't get unstuck by waiting for clarity. You get unstuck by deciding and allowing experience to shape you on the other side of that decision. If this hit and resonated with you, sit with it. Then make a decision. Choose one thing and move.